Hey, this is Angelika at the Oregon Bee Store on this beautiful January day, and today we're going to be talking about occultation, tarping, and solarization. And you may say, what are these fancy words that she's using today? But it's really very simple. The idea is to keep weeds out of your garden beds before you ever plant anything in there. As you know, weeding is the hardest part of any garden, really. The planting and the harvesting is the easy part and the fun part. So how do we keep all those weeds away that drive us crazy? So first of all, let me explain the difference between occultation, also known as tarping, and solarization. So at this time of year in the winter, you want to actually tarp your beds. That means using black plastic. And there's a number of different products that you can use to keep the sun and the rain and the water off of your beds, which is what you want. If you deny all essentials to plants, they're going to die, and that's what you want to do in this case. So black plastic, you can use visqueen. If you go to the hardware store and you buy black plastic, be sure to get the thickest stuff that they sell, and also the largest piece that will work for the area that you're wanting to work in, because any gaps, any shortfalls, the weeds are going to find them. So be sure that you are big enough. And at this time of year, you use black. And the reason is there isn't a whole lot of heat, and so you're going to take advantage of the heat that there is with the black plastic. And we're going to do some examples right here. I'm going to show you. I just want to explain things to you ahead of time before we go out there. So black plastic, when it's cooler weather, will keep the wetness off of your beds, will warm them up, hopefully to the point where it'll cook the weeds underneath. And actually, if you prepare your beds in the fall, you put the tarping on, you can lift up that tarp in the springtime and magic. It's just ready to plant. You don't have to traipse around in the mud, you don't have to till anything, you don't have to worry, it'll be there when you're ready. So that's the magic right there. Solarization, that's something a little different. That's using clear plastic. Now, if you used clear plastic at this time of year, what would happen is your plants would be like, oh wow, this is really great. It was cold and now it's warm and we'll just grow like crazy. So we don't want that. So what you want to do is in the summertime, when it's so hot that none of us can stand it, you know how it is in the summer here, you want to put clear plastic on those weeds you're trying to get rid of, and then it will get super hot and cook your weeds. So that's solarization. So the tarping or occultation, that's what we're going to be looking at today. So let's go on out to the garden and I will show you what we've done. Okay, so let's go for a little walk around the garden right now with our tarping in place. So as you can see, we have our no-dig beds out here, which have been made up, and actually there are quite a few flower babies out here. That's a separate video. We'll talk about them another time. But they're just hanging out. They're called cool flowers. I mean, flowers are cool, but actually what it means in this case is these are plants, species that like cool weather. Not the broiling heat, but the cool weather that we have in the spring and in the fall. And so we're taking advantage of the fact that it's not going to be hot for a while. And so these plants are going to, they're all flowers that are out here. They're all going to bloom before it gets hot. So we'll talk about that another time, like I said. So now, you see how in this area that's next to our prepared beds, we have this other area which has not been prepared yet. And of course, you don't have to guess what's under there. Just a bunch of orchard grass, weeds, whatever. Impossible to deal with at this time of year, of course, because it's adobe clay. You can't till it because you'll just make a huge mess and get frustrated. So what do? So what we're doing here is I have this black visqueen. I got it at one of the home improvement stores in the area, and it's 20 foot by 100 foot, and there's two of them out here. I believe the one goes from the end to where that cinder block is right there, and then there's another one right here which has been cut off, and then we have a little piece that's right here. Now this isn't really desirable to have a smaller piece like this, but if you have a small garden, it's perfectly fine. And then over here on the other edge of this little prepared area, you see how we have some landscape cloth. That's the woven stuff, not the plastic, that we just rolled out, folded in on itself several times, put some rocks down, and the holes were where the strawberries used to be, but with the way we have it folded is the sun can't get through there. So whatever you have that's black will work. You can use black plastic, you can use landscape cloth if you have it. There's also something I've heard of, they have banners like billboards, and when they're done with those, they, I guess, sell the plastic real cheap. It has like the advertising message on one side and they're white or something on the other. I really don't know anything about that, but I know that's very heavy duty good stuff, so if you can get a hold of that in your area, it's definitely something to try. So let me give you some tips here. First of all is overlap it really well. Like, don't just butt it up and overlap it like a foot or something. You want to overlap this stuff probably about 3 or 4 feet at the very minimum, because trust me, if it's only a couple of feet, the weeds will find it. There are some areas where you just can't help it, like right here. You see this tree has got weeds around it. Well, we'll just have to live with that, and we can. You see, if you weaken the area around them enough, you can get that part by hand, so we're not worried about that. Okay, so the first thing is overlap it real well. The second thing is batten down the hatches. Put something on it, for heaven's sake, so it doesn't blow away. We're lucky, we're a working farm. We have a lot of stuff, a lot of clutter at our disposal. You see, we're using pallets, signs, bricks, blocks, cattle panels, you name it, rocks, whatever you have. There's an umbrella stand out there. Whatever it is, use it. If you think you're not going to need it, believe me, you will. So go ahead and do that. Here's another area that's been tarped, and I want to show you over here in our greenhouse where we grow our tomatoes every year. There's one spot I made a little mistake. Anytime you neglect an area, that's where the weeds are going to take advantage. And what happened here is we had our sun gold cherry tomatoes here that are real tall. They were probably about, at least as tall, you see, as that wire that's on the top of that. Anyway, that bed was only about 2 feet from the wall here. So of course behind that, no one's going to crawl in there with tomato plants. And so what happens is the weeds like totally took advantage of that situation. So while the rest of this greenhouse looks really good, this section was not so good. So what we did is we took another piece that's from that 20 by 100 foot format. These are brand new, and we split them lengthways, and then what we did is made slits in here, and you see how they are battened down. There was plastic or landscape cloth over on the other side, so we're just overlapping here. Now there will be some grass that comes through there. I'm not worried about that because it's so weakened by being the light shut out of it like this. It's not gonna, you'll be able to pull that out by hand. I mean, there won't be no trouble at all. So the next question is how long do you keep this stuff on? Well, the answer is as long as you want, really. Have you ever like had a board fall or a brick or something in your garden, and you pick it up and underneath that is worms? And no weeds, of course, because the light can't reach it, and there's a whole bunch of worms and other critters in there. Well, what this plastic is doing is it's mimicking the natural cycle, which is what happens. Plants die, the leaves fall to the ground, and they all sit on the surface as mulch. They don't get tilled in. That's what no-till principles are all about. That's another video right there. But when you have something like this on the surface, it mimics nature in a big way. Now, I would say, when I do say as long as you want, I don't mean like leave it on here for 5 years or something, because if you did that, the plastic would deteriorate and then you'd have a big mess on your hands. What I'm suggesting is this was put up at the beginning of January. I'm going to say if I leave this on until like May or June, when we take this up, everything's going to be pretty much cooked under there, and we'll definitely make a video when we go ahead and do that. So I just wanted to give you some tips here. If you're despairing on how the heck you're going to get your garden going because it's been so wet, and how you're going to keep all the weeds away because you don't have time to weed them, well, we're right there with you. You see what we are dealing with here? You could never get this out of this clay. But we are going to have some beautiful beds that look just like these over here in just a few months. And it just takes a little bit of preparation. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, if there's any kind of topic that you want to see, in the comments below, and I will definitely try to make a video for you. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.